Oh, he's coming?
Yep.
Hey! Hey, folks. Hey! Hey!
He's signing autographs in the back later.
It's not every day a lawyer gets applause when he walks into the room.
Like a dentist, you know?
Shot or bleeding.
Call to order. My name is Councilman Tom Papaleo. I am the council president. I'm standing in for the mayor. He will be coming and should be running the 8 o'clock meeting. Statement. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings and River Edge Mission Statement. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and attend any meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with this act, the mayor and the council of the Borough of River Edge have caused notice of this meeting to be published by having date, time, and place thereof posted in the Borough Hall, and notices have been sent to the Record and the Ridgewood News. The mission of this governing body is to provide essential services to the establishment and implementation of public policy that will safeguard our infrastructure, provide honest, courteous, and professional services, and establish a sense of trust and accomplishment with our residents. Through research and prudent planning, we seek to minimize risks while providing our services. We are sensitive to the needs of our taxpayers while realizing that this governing body cannot be all things to all people within the revenue constraints imposed by state mandates, economic conditions, and prevailing attitudes towards taxation. Please let it be known there are 3 fire exits, 1 in the rear, 2 in the front. Also, please let it be known that there is audio and video recording of this meeting, and if any member of the public during the open session wishes to be heard and seen, they may approach a mic, and they will be videotaped, and that videotape will be uploaded to our website. Let's stand all, please, for a moment of silence. Would Councilman Mignon please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to change the order of the agenda slightly. We're going to ask our... I apologize, yes. Roll call, please.
Councilman Murphy?
Here.
Councilman Estrada?
Here.
Councilman Cola?
Here.
Councilman Mignon?
Here.
Councilman Bartoloni?
Here.
Councilman Papaleo?
Here.
And Mayor Marcelo Taylor.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask Jim Manzavino, our tax collector, to come forward at this time. It's under the For Your Information reassessment, % of sales versus assessed value. Jim, thank you for coming.
No, thank you for inviting me. Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Well, good. How are you?
How could we be doing bad on a beautiful night like tonight? Right? Okay, I believe. Let me just backtrack a little. I guess we met sometime in December with Phil Gershio from the appraisal company. We asked them to do the study. I'm sorry.
No, let's use this one.
Thank you. I think it was sometime at the end of last year when the council asked that we have our appraisal company prepare a study to see how the reevaluation was holding up a year later. Well, I assume everybody got the sales analysis that was submitted, and on a total aggregate, our ratio is about 90.12, about 10%, 90%. and our standard deviation is 9.05. What does that mean? On average, for this year, sales were 10% higher than the assessed values. On average, throughout the town. I'm going to give a little breakdown more. Our ratio, our standard deviation, that's what we call, that's kind of like the difference between neighborhoods and values throughout the town. Now, the state considers under 15 very good. We're at 9, which is, 5 is acceptable. This is like a A-, so we're very pleased to see that. What I did further was to go along and break down the types of homes. And all the data's on these two sheets, but we took ranch homes. They had a standard deviation of 5.33% and a ratio of 96.86, so why don't we call it 97%. And there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 12 sales. There was a total of 90 sales that you see in the study. Some sales were omitted because they were non-usable, whether they were short sales, foreclosures, bankruptcies, relative sales. We chose not to include them because it would skew the study. Raised ranches. Now, that's not the greatest sampling because we only had 2 sales, but it was 95.11 with a coefficient of deviation of 3.89. Excellent. The conventional homes. Now, conventional homes are something that's, maybe it started out as a ranch and somebody did something, they put an addition on in the back, then they put something on the sides. It's just not like a typical, it doesn't fit any other mold. So it's just like a house out there. It's a little bit different than everything else. We had 2 homes, ratio 94.45, coefficient of deviation 2.40. Contemporary homes. We had 2 sales. And now the ratio on these came to be 102.78 with a coefficient of 7.43. So you can see we're all hovering right around 100%. Our one bi-level sale came in exactly what it was assessed at, so 0 coefficient and a 94.17 ratio. Cape Cods, we had about 11 sales, 12 sales. Ratio is 91.35, so we're a little low on that, and the coefficient of deviation was 8.42. The split levels, the ratio is 96.60, and the coefficient of deviation 7.28. Now, I broke up, with the help of appraisal systems, the colonials in 3 different classes. What we call 17, 18, and 19. Class 17 home is your typical old colonial, built 50 plus years ago, not ready for an update. Your class 18 is a little bit newer colonials, built, why don't you say in the early 70s, a little bit bigger, nice structure. Could go up to, I have one here up to 2002, so it's relatively new. And the class 19s are the brand new homes. Well, the class 17 colonials, the oldest colonials, have a coefficient of 11.37 with a ratio of 86.87. So you can see the sales on those came out a little bit higher than everyone else, as well as the coefficient of deviation. The class 18, those are the newer colonials but not the newest colonials, came in at 87.16 with a coefficient of deviation of 7.18. There was, for the first style colonials, you had the majority of sales. I'm going to estimate about 35 sales. And you had about 10 class 18s and 6 class 19 colonials. Their ratio came in at 87.10 and a coefficient of deviation of 4.99. Thought I could read that for a second, but no way. So the newest colonials, actually, when you break it all down, they still sold at a higher percentage greater than their assessed values than like the split levels, the bi-levels, and all the other homes. So it seems like the ratios are holding up pretty well and the reassessment's kind of right on, because you can see it kind of fits right in the middle. There's not one one style that outdoes another style. Now, as far as the different neighborhoods, the neighborhood 1, so the ratios were 92.23 with a coefficient of 8.69. Neighborhood 2, 92.39, coefficient of deviation 1.90. The next neighborhood, 85.07, coefficient of deviation of 10.19. Neighborhood 5, 87.72, coefficient of 10.04. And the last neighborhood was an 88.69, coefficient of 9.36. So you can see, there's nothing that's way out there, nothing that's different from the rest of them. So we broke them down by units, well, overall town, by units, and by neighborhoods. Any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer to the best of my ability.
Ed?
So, did you do this exercise basing the sale price basis on the old assessments before we reassessed to see how that would have panned out?
We did it based on...
The new assessment with the new sales price, but did we check what the new sales prices were based on what the original assessments were before we...
No. What I did was what they did is if you check... Because I didn't think that was the assignment. I thought the assignment was to compare...
I'm not saying, well, I'm just asking if it was done.
Yeah, if you look at the one sheet, if everybody happens to have this, you'll see it's block, lot, location. If you go all the way over, we see sales date compared to the 2011 and 2012 assessments, not comparing it to the ratios, and I guess I could ask them to do that.
I'd be interested to see what that is, and also based on sales price, also to see if you can block them out, say houses that were under 500, maybe 5 to 750, and houses that were more than 750, just based on...
Well, you have that all right here.
Okay.
That's in this report.
Did anyone get this report?
We got
We got an email, yeah.
Just doesn't flow very well on the email.
It's, well, you know what, I could give you... Talk about flow. I just tried to put on one page, trying to read it. You know, I mean, it's kind of hard. And that's all the backup too, if you want it. I could actually forward everything.
Yeah, that'd be...
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
We need to...
If you want to try to read it out.
Are there any more questions for Mr. Inzagino?
Just Jim, please, Jim.
Jim.
I know I'm old, I look old, but I'm only 50, you know?
I could read it. I could read it.
Doesn't seem to be any further questions, Jim. Do you have anything you wish to add?
I was always told less is better, so I'm shut and...
Well, then, if there's no objection, we want to thank you for coming, and if we have questions, I guess we'll email them to you, and we might invite you back, but we appreciate it.
If you want, again, my cell phone's available. It's 201-906-2469. Call me at your convenience.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Okay, our next item in business is back in order. We have our borough administrator topics, elected officials, online training. Alan?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is just a reminder for the elected officials that the online training for the Joint Insurance Fund is there. I know several of you have already completed the task. I can tell you from my personal experience, it only takes about 20 minutes, and that may include also just logging on and getting registered. So you shouldn't have a tough time doing this. Please just do it as soon as you can get to it. It will provide the borough with the opportunity to receive a $250 credit for every training session that we accomplish against our premium. Thank you for that.
Look. All right, for discussion, Assemblyman Tim Eustace, Assemblywoman Connie Wagner, and Senator Robert Gordon will not be able to make it tonight. We will be rescheduling them. So we move to item number 2, waiver of the $434 building permit fee, First Congregational Church. Alan?
Mr. President, thank you. If I may, we received a request to have a waiver of a building permit fee for a new roof on the church. We provided the mayor and council with information historical information, which does indicate that the First Congressional Church of River Edge has paid this permit fee in the past. Other religious institutions have paid these building permits in the past. So with that said, I guess you could open it up to some discussion.
Sure. Is there any council person would like to comment or discuss? Ed?
Alan, this was not repairs done in response to the storm, from what I understand. It was just routine roof replacement.
I don't have anything that would indicate that it was related to the storm. If there are no motions, then, this would not pass. If there's no motion, second and all ayes.
All right. Seeing none?
I'll make a motion to waive this fee.
Okay, we need a second. Seeing none, the motion does not move. We move to our next topic, work session consent agenda. Alan?
Yes, these items are listed for the mayor and council to consider. We have previously provided them with information, letters, memorandum to explain these various items. Generally, the mayor and council would have the opportunity to have any of these pulled out and discussed separately. If not, you could take them as a group and ask for a vote on all of them at once.
Okay, is any member of council wish to pull up one of the work session consent agenda items? Ed?
Yes, item 1.
All right.
Regarding Fire Company 2. I'd like Mr. Costa to come in and explain. He's requesting $6,500 for raising the generator at Company 2. I want to see what this entails. And we just did our budget last Saturday on the engineering budget, and this is more than 10% of his yearly budget on this one project. So I'd like to make sure that this is really a priority and it's really what the scope is, so we know what we're paying for.
So are you moving to table it?
I would table it.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is this open for debate? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? It has been tabled. Items 2, 3, and 4, does any member of the council wish to pull them out? Seeing none, we'll, if we could do this by consent, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes.
Could you do the first and the second?
I apologize.
I'll make the motion.
New at the job.
That's in here.
Okay, good.
I'll make a motion on items 2, 3, and 4 of the work session consent agenda.
Okay, we've been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained. All right. Council reports, we'll hold that until the official session at 8 o'clock. Mayor's report, we'll hold that. We are now up to, for your information, salary changes for Arthur Neese, Esquire, from an hourly rate of $85 to $125, and a decrease in the retainer from $4,500 to $4,000. Alan, could you speak to that?
Yes, this is actually for the mayor and council's information. There really is no action that you can take on this. The planning board, as is the zoning board, are independent entities, and they do make this decision on the compensation for these professionals. Planning board has gone ahead and changed the retainer agreement with the planning board attorney. They've reduced it from $4,500 to $4,000, but they have increased the hourly rate to $125. This $125 would apply not only to the developer escrow account, where developers and builders are charged this rate of pay, but also any other services that might be rendered apart from the retainer to the planning board.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
And can I have do we need to approve it now, don't we? And then we'd enter into debate whether...
Well, I can tell you that we will have a resolution on tonight to enter into an agreement with Mr. Neese for these rates of pay. The rates of pay are not being debated in terms of the agreement, but the certification of availability of funds is provided to this governing body so that you know funds are available for this expenditure. So when you see that resolution, that's the primary purpose, is to certify that funds will be available to meet these expenses. So knowing that a resolution will be on later on, unless that resolution is going to get tabled for some reason, you could take a motion to approve it at this time.
Alan, as far as the budget goes, we just put the retainer in as a budget item, and where does if there were to be extra funds or extra work requested by the planning board for the attorney, where does that funding?
We do provide another line item in that same budget. I believe it's not to exceed $3,000 for these per diem assignments that may come up for both the planning board attorney and the zoning board attorney.
So this would affect the number of hours he can work on something rather than...
Well, we have a threshold, of $3,000, and so we always like to ask for an additional contract with an estimated number of hours, that they'll be working on these various assignments.
And just this rate increase that was approved by the planning board
Yes.
and negotiated essentially by them. Right.
It's in their purview as to, I believe they did a survey, and they negotiated it, yes.
Okay.
So you're saying we don't need to move this because it would be...
No, I would say not. No.
Okay, great.
I would say not, and you can just pass the resolution.
All right, great. Unfinished business. Okay, new business. All right. We would do payment of bills at the official meeting, correct? So we would be going to open session. Is that correct?
So you could open it to the public.
Yes. Do we have a motion to open to the public?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstention? All right. This meeting is now open to the public for the public's interest. If you wish to be heard, please raise your hand as you're recognized. Please come forward. If you wouldn't, speak into the mic unless you choose to speak from the gallery. You need to give us your name and your address, please.
And I apologize, I have notes on the phone, so...
That's quite all right. A lot of us do.
Looking at the phone. My name is Mark Witter. I live at 135 Valley Road in River Edge. And some of you may have recognized my name and the address from a letter and some documentation I sent to everybody here probably 3-4 weeks ago. In a nutshell, my house was, and I was one of the many victims of Sandy. And I had a tree that was clearly designated as a town tree. It has been for many years. Long story short, I tried to file all of the appropriate paperwork, and I got responses back so quickly telling me that it is not a town tree, it is not town responsibility, and I have to deal with this on my own. Unfortunately, Jim Lynch was at my house the night of the 29th as well as the morning of the 30th. First thing he said was, "That's a town tree. All of the damage and all of the costs incurred are the town's responsibility." And he started off immediately with somebody to at least, on an emergency basis, the day of the 30th, getting these giant things taken off my roof and unplugging the holes in my roof and making sure that my daughter was still breathing because this tree was massive and it literally missed her by feet. About 8-9 days went by, and all of a sudden a tree contractor shows up at my house with a wood chipper and a backhoe and huge pieces of equipment that I don't even know what the names are for. Very grateful. They came and they did as much as they could do, given the condition of the property, and basically took away 80 or 85% of the tree, leaving the stump and the bottom 6 or 7 feet. This tree was probably, give or take, 300 feet tall. Estimated at somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 tons, and that was from the tree guy, not from me. Again, the first thing the town decided to do was, for some reason, claim no liability, no responsibility, and that I should go to FEMA. Yet, the town took it upon themselves to incur all of the time, the cost, the planning, to come and remove the tree from my property, and at least remove the tree from my house, not bring any of the repairs to my house. The damage to my house was about $27,000 and whatever the tree was itself. I tried to get back in touch with, I guess it's the insurance company that represents, when I filed it's called the tort, I believe, the paperwork. And I was told that it's not the town's liability, nothing, and yet I couldn't understand, well, if you're not liable, why did you take it upon yourself to remove everything and to incur the cost of everything? Didn't seem like it made any sense to me. And then I started emailing, and I wrote you all a letter, and it was fairly lengthy, and I guess it was a little opinionated, and I was a little upset, and provided all the documentation. And I know we have architects here, we have lawyers, we have CPAs, all of you professional people. I am too. Nobody thought that it was worth to call me and respond to any of my request for information. The irony is, I understand the damage to the house was covered by my insurance company, which is, it was, and we're still fixing it. And I got a check for exactly what I asked for the additional damage that was done to my property as a result of having to use these giant pieces of equipment to get this tree out of my backyard. The tree is massive. I mean, massive. So, I got the money, which was nice, but I don't understand why all through the election, I'm sure like you, I don't know, 30, 40 calls a week, people calling my house telling me to vote, get involved, get engaged, talk, to the point where all of the calls were crazy. People coming to my house, various members of this board knocking on my door, we'd like to talk to you, we'd like to get engaged, I understand the history with the mayor and some of the other things that went on in this town. I've been very involved in Regal for many years. Still don't understand why the bathrooms can't be unlocked for the girls, but that's another story. So you're all professional, but nobody felt that I was due a call back, an email, something to tell me what was going on. So I was emailing the poor woman, Dawn Mulligan, I think is her name, in the insurance company. She was the only one that was responding. It's okay. So I got the check, but I don't understand why nobody could communicate with me. That's number one. And the first thing that the town said was, A, it's not a town tree, and the tree was found to be healthy by the Shade Tree Commission. I don't know who's on the commission. I know it's a part-time position, and I don't really know what their qualifications are, but you have copies of my letter that I Xeroxed these little tags that go on my door. Tells me that they were there, everything's great. They never show up when I'm at the house, and I work out of my house. They still claim that the tree was not diseased. Well, rule number 2 should be, you should remove the evidence, because the stump and the bottom of the tree is still on my property, still there now. It's rotten. There's no, the disease is pretty easy to see. Okay. I'm really here to just give everybody a heads up. There is another tree on my edge of my property as big as the one that fell. And I mean, this one missed my daughter by 2 feet. It stopped right at the window, and she was in her bedroom because it was about 9 o'clock at night the night of the storm. The potential for a horrible outcome is just monumental. The other tree is on the other side of my property. It's probably, give or take a couple of tons, the same size, and it's probably 300 feet. It's tilted. It's leaning. I have asked the Shade Tree Commission to please come, and I get these wonderful little door tags telling me we were here. They put a little green dot on the tree. They say the tree is okay, and I guess for some reason they think that the green dot painted on the trunk is all that has to be done to protect my property and my kids. I don't know why this town seems to be retroactive rather than proactive on a lot of things. I am begging you for somebody to come and look at this tree and take the tree down before there's another storm, there's another incident, and we're not all so lucky. It would be the easiest thing to do, and I know there's a cost to taking the tree down. I get it. The exposure and the potential liability if it goes the other way is horrible. And I don't want to lose any of my kids. He don't knows my kids. Got the same age as his kids. I would think that we'd like them to all be around. So, am I offended that nobody would call me back? Yes. I'll get over it. I would love somebody that's qualified to come look at this tree Let's take it down and be done with it. And if we time it right, since, like I said, you gave me the check that I asked for to repair my grounds and its soil and seed and all the trees that came down and all the bushes. I'm not doing it just yet because it's not the time of the year to do it. If we have to bring in a backhoe and the same wood chippers, let's do it now, so we only have to pay for this once, not twice. So, I appreciate your time. I thank you very much for listening to me. You have my name and address. I'm available for anybody to come and work with me on this. Question?
Hi,
Councilman Murphy.
Mr. Whitaker, how are you?
Widder.
Sorry, can you spell that?
Widder, W-I-D-D-E-R.
I apologize for no one getting back to you. I am the shade tree liaison. The people that are on the shade tree, we have a certified arborist, so they actually write a lot of the language for other people to follow.
Okay.
It is a part-time
Yeah, I understand.
volunteer position. How long have you lived there, 135 Valley?
26 years.
So who has maintained that tree? Who was maintaining it? Was anybody?
Nobody maintains it. It's actually on...
Did you ever have it pruned or cut or anything?
No, the tree is technically not on my... Not technically, the tree is not on my property.
Mhm.
Where I live on Valley Road, there's that federally protected buffer land between the mall and 4. So where the tree is beyond the fence that I put up. It's probably 25 feet beyond my property line.
Mhm. Did you ever
Right.
call to have it like trimmed or a problem with it in the past?
I've called the commission to come out and take a look at it and assess its tilting. What do we want to do about this?
No, the tree that fell. Did you ever call? Was it ever evaluated? I mean, you said it was
Yeah, according to
healthy.
the commission, yeah, you folks were out in 2000, I'm doing this from memory, so it's in the letter, about 3 years ago, and said that the tree was perfectly healthy. The tree's not perfectly healthy.
Now, the one that you said is leaning, do you know if anyone's come out for that?
Not lately, no. As I said, I think they've been out, I think they've looked at that tree twice. I don't know the dates.
Mhm.
The last thing, as I said, somebody painted a green dot on the trunk of the tree. I'm not sure what that means.
And that tree you've never pruned or anything?
Not touched, it's not my property. It's not one of the nice trees that, on the border of the properties between the street and the homes. This is a big tree. I mean, the diameter is got to be 12 feet around.
I'm going
That's
to
a
come out and look at it tomorrow.
Bring
And I'll
boots,
speak
it's
to
going to
them.
be really wet back there. It's gonna be and I'm there most of the day, so feel free to knock on the door, and I'll be happy to go out and show you, and you can see all the disaster.
Mr. Weeder, are you saying this is in the back of your property, not between the sidewalk and the street?
No, this is in the back of my property, in my, I guess, affixed addressing my backyard. It's not in the front touching the street.
Alan, is that borough property back there?
I'd have to take a look at the tax map. More than likely it is, but,
Okay.
I wouldn't say definitely without doing some research.
Okay.
I think that when we bought the house, we did whatever the titles and the searches and things. There are 11 homes on Valley Road
Yeah. I
that
just
qualify
looked
for
at
this
that.
buffer, whatever, and we were told temporary construction only, nothing, like no built-in pool, things like that. So we checked, they said we could put up a fence.
Yeah.
That we did, but we've not done anything else back there. And the truth is, it abuts right up to the back of the woods, with the infamous creek, and that's why Jim knows my house, because I'm one of the flood victims when we get 8 inches of rain, and it's another problem for another day. And it's so wet back there all the time that there really is, if you go back there, you got to have a specific reason. You're not just going to wander through the woods. So,
Well, I'll be there by the end of the week.
I'm
You
sorry?
want to leave me your phone number, and I will
Yeah.
call you?
All right.
thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I
One
just
second,
wanted to
please.
address Mr. Witter. I got your letter, and obviously I read it. The tone of your letter, though, and the potential for litigation was the reason why I would not contact you directly. Because whenever there's a potential for litigation, it would be wrong, essentially, or misplaced for us, any one of us, to contact you and engage in a discussion where it's being handled by our insurance carrier. So that's the reason why you did not get a return phone call, because of the potential for litigation. So,
But
I hope you understand that.
Well, yeah, well, you know, again, I'm just trying to understand. I mean, I've been in business for many years, just like all of you, and you all have customers, and you all have vendors, and you all interact like I do. If the administrative person for the company, I guess they're claims adjusters?
Yes.
I'm not sure if it's the insurance office or if she's a broker or whatever, but if she could communicate with me,
But
you know, she wasn't
That's-
committing to anything. She was
But that's the
telling me what was
appropriate
going on.
person, the claims
Okay.
adjuster. Once you
Right.
file the tort claims notice, you put the borough on notice of potential litigation. It would be misplaced, it would be wrong for any of us to engage in conversation with you at that point, because as
Okay.
borough officials, we'd be exposing ourselves
Okay.
and the borough to, you know, and that's just something you simply can't do.
And the letter, by the
So
way...
that's why you didn't get
Okay.
a response back.
Okay.
Would I like to have contacted you? Yes, of course, to try and reach a resolution, but at that point, you're really dealing with the claims adjuster and not the people
Right.
of the borough.
Okay.
Because it's the claims adjuster who, and the insurance company that wrote you the check.
Yes.
Yes, it wasn't the borough of River Edge that
Right,
wrote you the
right.
check, it was the
Right.
it was the insurance company. So that's why you were dealing with them.
You're when you call here, I apologize for the title, the woman is the clerk, town clerk, maybe? Would that be you? This nice lady said, have you written a letter to the council? And I said, no, why? And she said, well, you know, if you want to get their attention, obviously I can't call you all. So that's why I wrote the letter, and at the time I had been rejected. And again, I'm not talking about the physical damage to the house, that was, my insurance company took care of that. It was the property, and you know, I mean, after 26 years, you have, you know, through natural growth, you have a little privacy in the back, and I mean, it's all gone. That part's nobody's issue, but that's the only reason why I wrote the letter was I thought it was just part of the process, and as I said, I didn't hear from you, and I also didn't hear from Dawn. You know, I had tried to get an update, and then literally, what is today? Tuesday. I mean, I was a bit world. Thursday, all of a sudden, there's a check in the mail. And I looked at the check and I went, great. I can go get my bushes and trees and grass.
Well, I'm glad that you were able
Yeah.
to resolve it, and,
Yeah.
you know, Councilwoman Murphy said she'll
And I
work with
appreciate it.
Shade Tree to look
Again,
at the other tree.
I just want you to be aware that there's this other tree, and the easiest thing to do is avoid problems. So I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome, and thank you for coming forward today. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward? Be recognized, please give us your name and your address.
Who's cooking the onions? That's all I keep saying. Do we have a restaurant here? James Miller, 885 Park Avenue, River Ridge. I'm going to speak now, and I'll probably speak again at the 8 o'clock session. I noticed that on the list of, and I've been checking online, I personally wrote a letter in opposition to the duplex housing district proposal on Park Avenue, on the east side of Park Avenue. I don't see it in the notes. We also had a very large petition signed by the concerned neighbors. There's no copy of the petition in the notes. There's no mention of the petition in the notes. But there is a mention of a resignation of a fireman and other firemen. So is it just happen to be, those kind of letters don't get put in this, or only resignation letters? I don't know. I'd like to know the answer to that.
Well, we all got a copy of the petition, we all got a copy of the letter, we have had a lot of correspondence on it. To why it's not on the agenda for the 8 o'clock meeting, is that what you're referring to?
Well, right here, it lists what correspondence
Yes.
you get. It doesn't list it this week, didn't last week or the week before.
Ellen, what is the protocol for listing of these things?
Some things I list for general information. Sometimes it's the timing, it comes in, and it'll be the following meeting when it gets listed. There's no set rule as to what gets listed for correspondence. We don't list everything that comes into the borough. You know, it's a matter of discretion, and you know, certainly if the council would like to see these listed, I could list them.
No, I was just asking for the protocol.
We really don't have...
So we don't know. There's
No,
it's up to...
No.
I mean, it's kind of like, sometimes it makes the list, sometimes it doesn't. All right. I guess it's also discretion, too, that we could have probably met last week or even the week before, but right in the middle of a holiday week, where a number of neighbors that live around me are away this week, so they signed a petition. That's why it was kind of important to see if they even listed the petition that it was even submitted. So other than you just confirming that we sent it to you, there's no other public notice saying that we
opposed this ordinance, and now I think the number changed now, 1781. And I'd just like to make a comment that we used the number that in December was produced. Now I think the number has changed because now two-thirds, but the people that signed the petition, it's the same opposition of whatever number.
We
the new numbers are.
recognize
wanna
it
bring that
regardless of the number.
Okay. I also would like to say that I don't think it's a good idea for us to do spot zoning for one developer. The guy's a nice guy, but for us to double the parking on our streets, increase our kids in the school system, and also devalue our houses even more, because when we bought our houses, or at least I did 18 years ago, and it's still the case where it's a very quiet neighborhood. Now you're going to have more people living in the neighborhood, and you're going to have to eventually have more people going into the schools. And the idea that the developer, he bought this property, he got approvals for 2 houses, and up till recently, I didn't know he even had approvals for 5-bedroom houses. And then based on what he thought he couldn't sell them for, he's decided to say, well, let me try to get double the amount of housing, lower the cost of the price of the house, and still have 3 bedrooms. Our suggestion would be, we're a single-family neighborhood, and there are some rentals starting to move into the area. We're concerned that if the whole east side of Park Avenue, a number of the properties that are very close to this zoning issue would eventually become duplexes. And then if they don't sell, they become rentals. And we all don't want to have rentals, because rental people are not the same as homeowner people. And if rental people come in with 3-bedroom units, then you have more kids that are renting in those double units, and now you have more kids in the school. And the taxes that those units are going to bring in are going to be net less than what the kids' education is going to cost. That's just like 1 kid per unit, but if there's 2, now you're talking about the rest of us are picking up the slack, so the developer, and not just this developer, all the other developers that are going meet the criteria. Now, this developer might put up a nice unit, but once you put in the zoning ordinance, then it's basically, we're going to have to go to every meeting to see what this guy is doing. We don't have an architectural review board to say, yeah, you have to put stone on the front of the house. Yeah, you have to use certain type of siding. That's not, it's once they put in the zoning ordinance that they can do whatever they want. Or we would have to keep coming to all meetings to get our say. And I think the general consensus is, and I'm going to stop talking soon because I think I've mentioned most of my points, is that we don't want this to be happening in our neighborhood. And the idea that you're going to change the master plan, plus the final thing is with this Grove Street issue with whether you're going to put commuter parking, there's a whole issue there that's going to be interlocked with this type of issue, that I would think you want to step back, look at what the master plan is, and why just our neighborhood if you're concerned about providing commuter type of housing. All along Kinderkamack Road would be commuter housing. Anybody close to the railroad tracks should be commuter housing. There's a number of older areas. We're the oldest area in Park Avenue, and we all knew we bought older houses. We fixed them up. Granted, the market's gone down drastically, but the thing is that if you put more people into our neighborhood, there's no way our property values go up. So you're basically giving us a double-edged sword on that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard? Please come up, say your name and your address.
Jose Saladin, 841 Park Avenue. Good evening. I was here in December, and I objected vociferously against the proposed zoning change, which in essence is just spot zoning. And I think it goes further. I think it's an individual variance designated as spot zoning for the benefit of the developer. This developer, as James said, already has permits. He admitted it here last meeting to build 2 single-family homes. That he wants to maximize his profit. That shouldn't be the concern of the town, nor should it be the concern of the residents of 841 Park Avenue. The reality is he knew what he was buying. He claims he's developed in River Edge previously. You know what? Caveat emptor, buyer beware. You knew the demographics of the neighborhood, the housing stock, the so-called, what his attorney said, the nuisance of the train. It existed before you bought, it existed when you bought. I bought a house directly across the street. I knew the train was there. I made a conscious decision. I put a lot of money into my house. I am underwater. I owe more on my mortgage than what the property is valued at. My question is, what thought process went into this, other than the developer coming to the mayor and council and saying, please rezone this area? And furthermore, why only on the east end of Park Avenue? I live on the west end. If, in the council and mayor's wisdom, this will be beneficial as a whole, then you know what? Rezone all of Park Avenue, and perhaps rezone the streets perpendicular to Park Avenue, right? If this developer who doesn't live in town, who doesn't care or won't care what happens after he sells and maximizes his profits in terms of the additional tax burdens and additional services that we're going to have to provide to multiple families where otherwise single families would be, then you know what? Rezone my house. Rezone the west end. I have a huge lot. You know what? I like to have my property rezoned, if that's the case, if it's beneficial. Then I can come to the council. Hey, I want to build a duplex. Sell and move out. Well, those weren't my intentions. But what I'm saying is what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And under these circumstances, I don't think it's warranted. It's not warranted. He has permits. At the end of the day, this is solely an economic issue. It's not about rezoning for the benefit of the whole community. And if that's the case, I plead with you. You know, if you're going to rezone it, then do it for everyone. And do it by looking at the master plan. You can't, zoning, I said it at the last meeting in December, I said what eventually will happen, or likely will happen, because I'm not a magician, I can't prognosticate the future. I said what will likely happen, and I lived in Fort Lee. You know, I had a house in Fort Lee. I moved out of Fort Lee. You know why? Because there was too much multifamily development, too much rentals. And you know what it did to the school system? The rankings, the level and quality of education, it went down. Because you had so many families overburdening the school system that you weren't getting the quality of education that the Fort Lee School District once had. I sold my house. I moved here, and now this has the potential to happen again on my block. When I was here in December, I said, what eventually is going to happen is all these little homes, developers are going to be coming, knocking on the door, giving the homeowners a nice check. They're going to raise all these homes, and you're going to have from Gates Avenue all the way down to whatever, it's Lincoln, just going to have a row of duplexes. And I'm going to show you the board. I don't know if the board was emailed this. Interestingly, this is just one of two properties. This is 854 Park Avenue. Older home. I think it belongs to an estate. What does the listing say? With the right lawyer and information, who knows what may be done? Well, guess what this refers to? The proposed zoning. There's another street that sold recently. There's another house across it's right adjacent to these two vacant lots with respect to this developer. It's an old greenhouse. I don't know the property address, but it's my understanding somebody bought it with the idea of fixing it up and renting it. Well, that person who purchased that property is sitting on the sidelines because he wants to see what happens with this. And eventually, this is what's going to happen. You're going to have a row of cookie-cutter duplexes. Granted, my house is old, but you know what? My house has character. And there's a lot of people that have come to my house and said, you know what, I love your home because it's old. And there's something to be said. New doesn't always mean better. You know? There's something to be said about preserving old sections of towns. You know, that's why they have landmark commissions in cities. That's why they have landmark commissions in towns. Because there's a benefit of preserving history. Granted, our houses are probably not the nicest, but you know what? They're old, and they show where River Edge came from. We don't want to become another Bogart or another Fifth Avenue. And I ask, my last question is, I presume most of you live in River Edge. Would you like this rezoning to happen immediate adjacent to you? And I think the answer would be no.
Thank you. Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward and speak? Yes, please do so. Please give us your name and your address.
No, this is it. Kevin Wright, 69 Christie Avenue, 07661. I'd like to pick up on what the last speaker said. I live on Christie Avenue, and you drive down the street, you have this wonderful variety of architecture of different ages, but you'll notice that all the buildings have the same setback, and all are single-family homes. This is not an accident. When I bought my home in 1997, my deed says that the property is subject to covenants and restrictions of record, if any. When the zoning in this neighborhood that defines this neighborhood actually predates the borough of River Edge, and it predates all modern zoning laws. If you any of us look at our deeds, you'll find that when the property was laid out by Gustav Peetz in 1892, it specifically states you can't have any industrial buildings or commercial buildings in the neighborhood, and that the grantee shall not erect on any portion more than one dwelling house upon each lot to cost not less than $1,200, something easily done today, and to be located not less than 15 feet from the front or street line. Said dwelling house and all outbuildings to be of good workmanship and kept well painted. This neighborhood has its wonderful character because of this early attempt to create a single-family residential development. And even though buildings have been infilled from the 1890s forward till today, they all preserve the same character of the neighborhood, and I think that character is worth preserving. I like my neighborhood, I like my neighbors, and I would ask you to retain what is River Edge's original transit village in its present form and character.
Thank you for coming and speaking to us. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard? Please come forward, give us your name and address.
Michael Cray, 879 Park Avenue. And I guess I'm hoping I can ask a couple of questions here to get some understanding from my part and possibly some of the number of people here. I guess the first thing I want to understand is the process here is not something I'm a student of. So am I correct in that tonight's decision from the planning board is purely to tell the council whether or not this rezoning conforms with the master plan? Is that an accurate understanding of what's happening here?
No.
No.
Okay.
But Ed, or
correct.
Sam, could you address that?
Tonight the ordinance would be introduced,
Okay.
which just means it's the public notice that the council is going to be considering adoption of this ordinance. Once the ordinance would be introduced, it would be referred back to the planning board, who I believe has 35 days to review the ordinance.
Okay.
That would probably happen, I would guess, at their March meeting. The planning board can either agree with the ordinance or offer recommendations to the council. It can say we don't agree with it, but they have to make they can either make a decision pro, anti, or neutral, either way.
Okay.
It would then come back for a public hearing, which I would assume would be scheduled in the beginning of April at that point.
Okay.
And then there would be a public hearing, like you were here in December, where the public comment would be heard, and then the council would vote on adopting the ordinance.
And the planning board meeting, is there public comment, is that as well?
It would be a public meeting, but I don't know if the notice requirements are the same. I don't know.
There's no requirement that they open it up to the public for discussion. They may, it's in their discretion whether or not to open it up to you for discussion.
Okay, and their role is basically to review this ordinance and say, do you agree with it, we're neutral, or we think it's a
For
bad idea?
example, when this came up the first time, the planning board came back, and what they did was they found it was consistent with the master plan, and they also offered some changes to the bulk standards. Particularly, I believe they changed the rear yard setback, and I believe they also increased the coverage, and they also widened the allowable driveway width. Those were 3 bulk changes that the planning board recommended. That was prior to when the council, to the previous public hearing.
Okay, so this is really the first step of a 3-step process.
It's exactly repeating from what we did last year, and since the ordinance has not changed, I don't know whether, there are new people on the planning board this year, so there may be more and different comments than you heard last time.
Okay. And it's, for my edification, because I guess I was confused on where we were in the process. So, that's all I need to know.
So to clarify, it's not passing today
Understood.
as an ordinance.
Mhm.
It's beginning the process,
Right. Okay, I guess then...
if it passes at all.
Understood, yeah. I think you probably, have heard the comments from most people here. I would just second them that, if there is an issue that's created by our tax code for development, that issue should probably be addressed in the tax code, rather than, peculiar or unique zoning around particular development areas, which is what this, I think, feels like and seems like to most people. A developer who made an investment, a professional developer, who's in the business, not somebody who, is uninformed, risk of doing business, bought a property, there's some change in the code, it creates some difference in his potential to turn a profit based on his original plan, that maybe he needs to look at the original plan and modify it, rather than us modifying the nature of our town. And I think that's really the issue we have here.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for coming and speaking to the council. Is there anyone who would like to be recognized? Please come forward, give us your name and your address, and be heard.
Good evening. My name is David Hawthorne. I live at 70 Bloomfield Avenue. And I'm here tonight because this is not the first or second, but the third time where I feel I've become sensitized to my neighborhood, feeling like it's used by the mayor and council to indulge various developers that have come along. The first one was a fellow named Manetian who wanted to develop the end block between Christie and Bloomfield on Kendrick Mack, wanted to build something significantly bigger. Without digressing too much into the details, of things that are in the past, different mayors, different councils. I feel like our neighborhood is somewhat physically isolated, and we've often been the victims of developers who have ideas and mayors and councils who don't look very closely at the borough code book. For this issue, it seems to me when I look at the code book that the planning board is the one who's responsible for maintaining and updating the master plan. And it seems like there's been a change. What we're talking about, 1772 or 1781, is a change to the master plan to amend something which would be ordinary for a planning board to take business in. But when I look back, and I've read every agenda and every meeting minutes that the planning board produced in 2012 up until September after the first reading, and I don't find that the planning board ever discussed this at all. So somehow somebody paid for final language to be written, somebody paid for, after the first reading, for the Merman report to be prepared, and I don't find any basis for it in the planning board, and that bothers me as a resident here. And I would like to better understand who's doing what and how things either aren't being recorded or the process, at least as I interpret it, isn't being followed.
So, to clarify, your concern is that you feel that the process cannot or should not emanate from the council. The process should emanate and be initiated by the planning board. That's your understanding?
Yes, is that
Sam,
not correct?
Could you address that?
Well, it's referred back to the planning board to determine whether this particular ordinance is consistent with the master plan.
Right, it will be. Right.
And additionally, whether the form of the ordinance basically is consistent with the zoning ordinance. In this particular case, the planning board did make several recommendations, of which Mr. Mignon had indicated, and then referred it back with those recommendations, which were literally incorporated into the final draft of the ordinance. But the planning board serves as sort of a review body for any zoning change. They guide the governing body, this body, in terms of evaluating the proposal, whether it does impact adversely on the master plan or the neighborhood in terms of the community benefit derived from this particular proposal. So it does serve a very valuable purpose in that regard. You may want to attend the planning board meeting. This will be referred back to the planning board, assuming they introduce the ordinance, and the planning board will review it again a second time.
You skipped a point that's the important point to me, which is that shouldn't and doesn't the Borough Code say that it should be it's the planning board who is responsible for the master plan? They should be the ones initiating. They should be the ones identifying that there's a problem with the master plan and then trying to patch it and then bringing it to the
planning board is not. This is the legislative arm of the government.
Yes.
So all laws, whether it be zoning or master plan or anything, are adopted by this entity, not the planning board. The planning board reviews it and acts as sort of an advisor to the governing body. Studies it, makes recommendations. They do have a professional planner on their board, and they make recommendations. This governing body doesn't have to accept the planning board's recommendations. They could totally ignore or reject them.
Okay. So it's your statement that this board, I'm sorry, that the mayor and council is the one who initiated this,
That's
the need for this.
Well, based on what we heard, based on an examination of the site, I think, and based on I think they had a professional evaluation done by a planner of their own, making certain recommendations for the site and how the site could be developed. Given the unique nature of that particular easterly side of Park Avenue, the fact that it does have an unusual topography, located very close to a railroad station, railroad tracks, and the undesirability probably to see more single-family homes developed in that area. I think it was sort of a rehabilitative approach to that neighborhood in order to rehabilitate what was seen to be not only deteriorated state, but also a mixed use in there. There are other homes in there that were multifamily. The idea was to take these 22 lots and to allow them as a conditional use, provided they could meet certain bulk requirements. They're still subject to conditional use. It's one of the highest standards under the zoning ordinance that have to be met before it can be approved. It's not a very easy task.
So you said 22, so they've added 22.
I think my recollection there were 22. That's from my recollection. I don't know if there were 20 or 22. I thought there were 22 lots involved here.
I mean, some of what you said is sort of straight into
the public session.
Okay.
We can continue this later.
Mr. Hawthorne, I apologize, but it's 8 o'clock, and since we have advertised an 8 o'clock meeting, we have to close this meeting. We will be opening this issue up to the public again in the official meeting, so if you wish to address the council at that time, you are free to do so.
Can I just ask, will that be before you vote or after you vote?
Before.
Thank you.
No, sorry, after? After.
So some of I don't know how many people didn't get the chance to, so that protocol, but, there's elderly people who've come here tonight, there are people that got the notice that said the meeting was at 8 o'clock, and it seems a shame to not take the opportunity.
I don't have any leeway with that. No, I don't think we do. Hold on a second.
But anyway,
one second. No, just stay.
I just think there are people here who might want to speak.
The notice that you received was not necessary to be given to the public, okay, because this was not the final, it was not the second reading. Denise sent them out, and as a general, from past experience, when we were in December, a lot of people complained that they didn't follow the agendas of the governing body, and they complained they had no knowledge of this matter.
Right.
So in an effort to keep the public informed, which is not in any codified law.
It may not be a legal requirement, but there are people
Well, this is why
who
we
came
do
here
it.
because they got the notice. and
That's true. Well, what I'm
wanted
saying to you is
speak.
that there was no legal compulsion to provide this notice. It was done so to inform the public, to give them an opportunity to be heard at the 8 o'clock regular session.
Mr. Orthon, I'd also like to add, even though we're under the clock, this body was ready to move forward with the second reading. We chose, as a courtesy, in response to the public, especially the Park Avenue residents, to not move it forward. So
Yes.
I'd like to just make that clear.
As I would expect, I'm a resident of Riverhead.
Absolutely.
It's the
So I don't
town
want you to
that
think
goes
we're treating you unfairly, because we were going to deal with this in December. We put it off, knowing full well we'd have to start over.
Right.
And we did that at a courtesy. And then I moved the agenda forward, the work agenda forward as quickly as possible, because I knew there was people who wanted to speak.
Right.
We don't normally have this much time in a work agenda for comment. So I just want to underline that we are making every effort to accommodate and to the residents so that they may be heard. But at this point, we are obligated to close this session. And I'm sorry about that. Okay, I have a motion to close the work session.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? All right, thank you. What we're going to do now is open the 8 o'clock meeting of the Mayor and Council for February 19th, 8 p.m. Call to order. We've already done the silent prayer and the salute. We've already done the mission statement and the open public meetings. May we have a roll call?
Councilwoman Murphy.
Here.
Councilman Estrada.
Here.
Councilman DePaula.
Here.
Councilman Young.
Here.
Councilman Bartoloni.
Here.
Councilman Papaleo.
Here.
And Mayor Mastrotola.
All right, I think we can at least move forward with the approval of the minutes. When we get to at a certain point, we're going to, if there's no objection, we're going to pause. I know the mayor is on his way, but I think we can move the approval of the minutes. For approval of the minutes of the mayor and council work session and regular meeting for February 4th, 2013, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any opposed? Okay. There are no proclamations or awards at this time. There are appointment and personnel changes. The first is to approve the resignation of Richard Curran from the River Edge Volunteer Fire Department, effective the 1st, 2013. Is there any discussion before we make a motion? Yes.
I would just like to publicly say thank you for all the time that he committed to the fire department. It was many, many years. And
Hear, hear.
he'll be missed.
Yes, I think we all agree with that. Could I have someone move the resignation?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Approved. Our second is the approval of the appointment of Michelle S. Austin, Esquire, 27 Warren Street, Hackensack, New Jersey, as the attorney for the Zoning Board of Adjustment, effective January 1st, 2013. Is there any discussion before we move this? Seeing none, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Our third, approve the resignation of Richard Pribula. Is that correct?
You're doing fine.
All right, great. Alternate senior bus driver, effective February 28th, 2013. Is there any discussion before it's moved? Seeing none, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Approved. All right, we have several pieces of correspondence that are available to the public. Alan, how would they get this?
The clerk's office has these on file, and they just merely have to make a request.
All right. And then now we have termination and award certificate. $104,000 special emergency note. Certificates Alan P. Negrian, CFO, 2013-13. I'm going to read this now?
No, you don't have to read the entire document. There are two termination and award certificates, Mr. President. One for the special emergency note, $104,000, which will be due February 14th, 2014, and a bond anticipation note for $500,000 due November 15th of 2013. It's just a requirement that we disclose the determination and award to the public, and we've done that by listing that here in the report. You can move on to monthly reports.
Excellent. Very good. All right. We are now into monthly reports. They also are on file, I believe.
Yes.
Police Department, Building Department, Recreation Commission, 2013 Annual Financial Statement, Board of Health, Library Board. So anyone who would like to see those reports may approach the Borough Clerk during working hours. We have our liaison reports. We begin with Councilwoman Murphy. Liaison to the DPW, Shade Tree Commission, Library, Senior Citizen Co-Liaison, New Milford River Edge Shared Service Committee, Ordell River Edge Shared Service Committee.
Thank you, President Papaleo. I'm going to be brief. I do want to extend my condolences to SCORE member Ruth Miller. She was the events coordinator, and she passed away recently. So my condolences to her family. I would like to thank the DPW and John Lynch. We had a lot of good feedback from the public regarding their cleaning of the snow and how quickly they got it done. And the Shade Tree is meeting tomorrow, and that is my report.
All right. Thank you, Councilwoman Murphy. Councilman Aquafrida, Liaison to the Beautification Committee, Ad Hoc Zoning Subcommittee, River Edge and Riverdale Schools.
Riverdale Schools, they're working on the budget, and they will be inviting Mayor and Council to attend a joint session with the Oradell Mayor and Council during the month of March. River Edge School Board. Riverdale is also considering, has adopted a format of teacher evaluation in compliance with the mandates from the state, and they're in the process of implementing that evaluation system. The River Edge School Board, they held a presentation of the budget for Mayor and Council a couple of weeks ago, and again, they will be fine-tuning the budget and have a final presentation also during the month of March. The Beautification Committee, there was a meeting on February 7th. Just reading from the agenda, items such as 4th of July parade float was discussed, replacement of the green banners along Kinnekamak Road, furthering discussion about the development of Cherry Blossom Park and the tree farm that will be associated with it. And then open discussion, some fundraiser idea, and finally meeting adjourned. And that concludes my report on those three items.
Thank you, Councilman Aquafrida. Councilman Coppola, Liaison to Construction Code Official, Property Maintenance, Senior Citizen Co-Liaison, Historic Commission.
Yes, thank you, President. My two reports that I have are for the SCORE. Next week they'll be having an afternoon at the movies down at the SCORE Center. Also my condolences to Ruth Miller and her family. The Historic Commission met in January 23rd, and we met and spoke about the further transcribing of the oral history of River Edge and the massive project that it is, and the thousands of audio and video clips that have to be transcribed and put into a new form. Also, Historic Commission debated what is the Commission's full power and jurisdiction as it pertains to historically designated homes/buildings, and what the Commission can and can't prescribe a property owner to do on the outside facade of their property. We also discussed at the Historic Commission meeting in January the master plan as it pertains to historic buildings and who is in charge of amending or changing what master plans to the structures are. And last, how far can the Historic Commission legally go as to oppose an owner of a historically designated home if that owner wanted to knock down the structure and or remodel it outside the lines of the permissible official historic building code or codes, and what those ramifications would be to the town. And that's my report.
Thank you, Councilman Coppola. Councilman Mignon, liaison to the Police Department, Environmental Protection Commission, Green Team, Planning Board, New Milford River Edge Shared Service Committee.
Thank you. Environmental Protection quarterly meeting was canceled due to lack of quorum. The Green Team will be meeting next Tuesday. We're still in the process of going through recertification. We've updated all or we're doing our second round of updates in terms of information required to get recertified. We're waiting to hear back from the Sustainable Jersey program to see if we need to submit more before we're officially deemed recertified for the next cycle, so we're waiting to hear on that. Planning Board, there's a meeting on Thursday night, and the only application we're hearing, I believe, is a major soil permit for a new single-family home construction on Elm Avenue.
Thank you. Councilman Bartoloni, liaison to the Recreation Committee, Traffic and Safety, Special Events Committee, Technology Committee, Ordell Shared Services Committee.
Thank you. Everyone may want to get out their phone or calendar and jot down some dates. Specifically with regard to recreation, March 23rd is the egg hunt in Memorial Park. That's going to start at 1 o'clock. The rain date is for Sunday, the 24th. From April 8th to the 12th, Recreation is having a spring break multi-sports camp. This is also in Memorial Park from 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock for children aged 5 to 12. There is a fee with that. You can go on the Recreation Department's website to get additional information about that. April 15th is the opening game for men's softball. That kicks off at 8 o'clock at KBG. The River Edge Run is April 20th. The 5K run starts at 10 a.m. The Health Walk kicks off at 10:05, and the Fun Run is at 9 a.m. Regal Softball opening day festivities start on April 21st. Usually, there's no time yet, but usually that's sometime in the afternoon, probably about 1 o'clock. And then Little League opening day is April 27th. So, and there's no time yet for that, but that's a Saturday, so that may be earlier in the morning. In terms of, I have nothing to report on traffic and safety. Special Events Committee, unfortunately, Tuesday nights are usually when we meet, so our meeting tonight got canceled, and that'll get rescheduled. In terms of the Technology Committee, we added a member, actually, Councilman Acquafreda. And basically what we're going through now is, as part of our budget process, looking at the computers that we have in the borough and our infrastructure in terms of servers, Wi-Fi, things like that. That's what we're going to be looking at as we go forward throughout the year. And that's about it.
Great. You'll have to indulge me for a moment. I need to go back to my seat and get my report. All right. Councilman Papaleo, liaison to the Fire and Fire Prevention, Social Services, River Edge Alliance Against Alcohol and Drugs. Okay, report from the River Edge Alliance Against Drugs. Chairperson Marie Papaleo informed me that the Alliance Against Drug was awarded $9,876 for 2013. Right now, we're in the process of meeting with organizations and receiving requests for funding. A meeting was held on Saturday, February 16th, with the committee from Riverdale Junior High, Senior High School. And a large amount of our funding will go to help our students at the junior and senior high school. Another meeting is scheduled for tomorrow with our county supervisor to make sure that the funds are in categories that can be utilized most efficiently. The governor has determined that all alliances throughout the state, all of our alliances, must attend 2 meetings this year in order to receive funding for the next year. We thank our CFO and BA, Alan Negrian, who will be attending the first meeting, which is being held in Parsippany. The county is in the process of having a meeting for all at a closer proximity, so for the second meeting, so that more can attend. The River Edge Fire Department Activity Report, January 2013 to present. Following is a recap of the fire calls by type of incident. There were 13 fire alarms, 6 structure alarms, 8 mutual aid calls, 5 gas leaks, 6 carbon monoxide calls, 3 elevator rescues, 1 hazardous material call, and 2 vehicle crashes. Total calls to date is 44. Some remarks. 2 storm standby incidents involving 780 man-hours so far. 1 mutual aid coverage for the Paramus Fire Company 2 involving 52 man-hours. Mutual aid to assist in the rescue of an 86-year-old male who backed into the ravine and creek in Ordell. Vehicle was extricated using heavy rescue equipment from both communities. Party was transferred to Hackensack Medical Center for observation and no significant injuries. This is of special note. Engine number 2 was involved in a motor vehicle crash on February 10, 2013 at 11 a.m. Engine 2 was traveling southbound on Kinnekumack Road through the intersection of Main Street. The other vehicle traveled through the red signal into the intersection heading westbound on Main Street. It struck Engine 2 midship, so right in the middle of the vehicle, according to the police report. No injuries were reported by any parties involved. Engine 2 will be able to remain in service until the repairs were made. Engine 2 was not at the time responding to an emergency. It was being driven by Lieutenant Edward Trinkleback and Captain William McCrae, who was the officer OIC. There were 2 appointees to new members to Company Number 1. 1 finished the academy and 1 will start in April. In addition, the fire department would like to thank the mayor for showing up to both firehouses at our recent weather alert. At Company Number 2, he came around 12:30 a.m. It made a real difference for our volunteers who were sleeping over, and they appreciated seeing our local leaders visiting and make sure that they had what they need. Also, they would like to issue a Captain McCrae and Lieutenant Trinkleback would like to issue a thank you when myself, Councilman Papaleo, called them about the incident, made sure they were well and safe, and they appreciated and were surprised to have the outreach. All right. And that's it for my reports. No, I thought I heard footsteps. Okay. So, should we move forward or should we take a break? Move forward?
Move forward.
All right. Great. Okay, first up is a first reading of an ordinance, Ordinance 1781, an ordinance amending Chapter 416 zoning, Articles 4 and Articles 8 of the revised General Ordinance of the Borough of River Edge. Do we want to speak to that, or no?
You would ask for a motion.
All right. Can we have a motion to move Ordinance 1781?
So moved.
Can we have a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Estrada?
My vote is going to be yes. However, there is one aspect of this ordinance, proposed ordinance, that I'm still not convinced of, and that is the extent of the ordinance. Yes, it is. The zoning.
Yes, it is.
Apologize, technical difficulties. I certainly believe that There are a few more milestones coming up, including the review by the planning board. And I would like to think that we could find a way to expand the ordinance to include, at the very least, the entire stretch of Park Avenue and both sides of it, and treat this as the beginning of what could be considered a special improvement district, which in my mind would...
We ask the public to remain silent. You will have your time to speak. This is not that time. Continue, Councilman Acquafreda.
I'm just about done. There is nothing else to add. And I voted before I made a statement.
Okay.
Councilman Paula?
Yes.
Councilman McDermott?
No.
Councilman Bartoloni?
No.
And Councilman Caporetto?
Yes.
Passes.
Okay, now we move to ordinance second reading for ordinance number 1779, an ordinance amending Chapter 384, trees of the revised general ordinance of the Borough of River Edge. We need to open, this since it's a second reading, we need to open this to the public, but before we do that, I would like to remind the public that they may speak on this ordinance and only this ordinance at this time. There will be an opportunity at the end to speak on other issues if you would like to do that. Can I have a motion to open this to the public?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So this is open to the public. This is only for ordinance 1779, ordinance amending Chapter 384, trees of the revised general ordinance of the Borough of River Edge. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak on this ordinance? Seeing none, I would ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? All right, it is adoption. Getting this job done. All right, could I have a motion to adopt ordinance 1779?
So moved.
Second.
All those, please, a roll call.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Acquafreda?
Yes.
Councilman Paula?
Yes.
Councilman McDermott?
Yes.
Councilman Bartoloni?
Yes.
And Councilman Caporetto?
Yes. The ordinance passes. Okay, now we have second reading for ordinance number 1780, an ordinance appropriating $2,000 from the General Capital Fund. Could I have a motion to open this to the general public?
So moved.
And it's...
Second.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstention? All right, so this is for ordinance 1780, an ordinance appropriating $2,000 from the General Capital Fund balance. Anyone in the public would like to speak to this ordinance and only this ordinance, feel free to do so now. Seeing none, I'd like a motion to close the hearing to the public for ordinance 1780.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? It has been adopted. Okay, resolutions by consent. Is there any council person who would like to pull out any of the resolutions for consent? They run from 13-95 through 13-110. We'll leave 13-111 out, as is our habit. Councilwoman Murphy.
13-100.
All right. Councilwoman Murphy, would you like to speak to 13-100? For the public's benefit, this is 13-100 is an amend agreement with Robert Costa, Borough Engineer, for professional services related to specifications for the replacement of the emergency generator at Fire Company Number 2.
Well, since we had already tabled it, there's no reason to have it included in this.
It should be tabled. A motion should be made to table the resolution.
I make a motion to table this resolution.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? It is tabled. Is there any other resolution that any council person would like to pull out for a separate consideration? Councilman Mignon.
13-104 and 13-106, those are two rescinding resolutions, which I think are contrary to what we acted upon at the work session.
All right, so you're moving to table?
No, I guess we're just two...
Can I offer an explanation?
Sure.
We are rescinding the earlier resolutions that we've done on these, and there are matching resolutions to pass the new rates of pay and the new rate escrow fees.
So it's not rescinding the agreement, it's amending the agreement with Mr. Neese.
Is that correct?
Because
It's rescinding the old one and putting in...
we already have one.
Hold on, let's...
We thought it was cleaner to rescind the resolution for Artemis and rescind the other for the escrow and just place them back on the agenda as new cases.
But this would be at the rates that we agreed to at the work session?
Correct.
Okay. Or no, I thought we were rescinding
No, no.
based on
No.
if the other one was denied, then I...
You withdraw?
I withdraw.
Okay. So 1304 is still on the resolutions, and 1306, it has been withdrawn. An objection? Any other resolution? Okay, so let's move forward. Could I have a motion to approve resolution 1395 through 1399 at this time?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Seeing no debate, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Approved. Could I have a motion to move 13101 through 13110 as a resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, seeing no debate, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? They have passed. As is our tradition, we would ask Resolution 13111 be moved by our Chair of the Finance Committee.
Thank you. Whereas vouchers for the payment of goods and services rendered to the Borough of River Edge have been received, and whereas each bill has been checked by the receiving department, approved by the Chief Financial Officer and Borough Clerk, and reviewed by the 3 members of the Finance Committee. Now therefore be it resolved that bills as listed now be confirmed for payment from the appropriate funds as follows. Current account, $147,950.08. Capital account, $2,058.40. Recreation account, $1,527.50. Open space account, $75.60. Self-insurance account, $3,054.48. Trust other developers account, $7,812.50. Trust other account, $7,720.45. So moved.
Second.
Okay, seeing no debate, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, could we now have a motion to open the hearing to the public on any matters that are concerning the public that they wish to speak on?
So moved. Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Very good. All right, so now we're back to open session. So, Mr. Hawthorne, I'm going to give you first time at the mic if you'd like to return, because I don't know if you...
I'll sum up a bit. The point that was made in the session was
Sufficient?
the first one.
Yeah.
And I think anything further, I'll do the planning board or later.
All right, very, very good. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak on any issue? Please come forward and give us your name and your address.
Okay, my name is Liz Davis, and I live at 291 Monroe. I have a slightly different perspective that I want to share with you. I have had the good fortune to work with Joe Kalika as his realtor for the last 3 years. I can assure you that he's a man of utmost integrity, and his homes that he has renovated and rebuilt in the area have been very high quality and enhanced the neighborhoods. And Joe, if you could just pass the book around, just so you can see the type of work he does.
I'd love to.
First, I'd like to commend the council for taking the reading of this ordinance very seriously, because it's important for the people in the area to know what's going on at Park Avenue. From what I understand, this ordinance was part of a concerted effort to revitalize this part of town. I want to point out there was nothing done in the cover of darkness here. The council didn't extend Joe Kalika a favor as suggested in the letters. In fact, Mr. Kalika brought up the idea of duplexes in a public meeting last April. And the town had Mr. Kalika hire an attorney, bring forward a planner, and sent his plans to the planning board for approval. The process has taken months, and the council has done their due diligence here. This should quell some of your fears that the passing of this ordinance would set a precedent to turn River Edge into, say, a Powell Park. Your council and planning boards do not take these changes lightly. Before I address a number of what I think are misconceptions concerning this project, I'd like to emphasize one important point. Mr. Kalika owns the land and it will be developed. 3-bedroom homes will not be built there and the lots will not remain vacant. There are two options. Option A, there will be 2 townhome-style duplexes, and option B, there will be 2 large single-family homes. I can appreciate the concern about option A, that the duplexes will bring overcrowding to our schools and will increase our tax burden. I have 2 children in the district. I'm sensitive to the taxes that we all pay. I live here. I know all about taxes. However, the argument that the duplexes proposed on Park Avenue will attract families and will overcrowd our schools is not a strong one. Prospective homeowners can now purchase single-family homes under $400,000 that are renovated, have private backyard, and no exposure to the train. A few years ago, that wasn't the case. Many buyers would buy a townhouse or duplex because it was more affordable than a single-family home. The duplexes planned for Park Avenue will be geared towards commuting professionals that will place a premium on the location near transportation. These units will be priced as high or higher than these single-family homes that have sold recently. And I have a few that I'd like to just pass out, just so you have perspective on what's happening. These are homes that have sold recently. It's extremely unlikely that buyers with families or planning to have a family near term would choose these units over comparably priced single-family homes. I'm also going to pass around 2 newer townhomes that have sold recently on Carroll Lane. There is a market for these homes, and that's a good thing. And this is what has sold recently in the townhomes. Okay. On the other hand, 2 5-bedroom homes proposed in option B will likely attract buyers with families and perhaps extended families, with older children, relatives, extra cars. The likelihood of a buyer without a family moving into one of these homes is extremely low. The business model for the project also has to change, as the homes will not have the aesthetic quality of the duplexes. They will be basic and will actually be larger structures overall than the 2-unit duplexes. In this case, the buyer will be trading the location for more affordable new construction with more square footage. It's important to note that the ordinance is granting a zoning option that it's very specific in its scope. The properties must have at least 70 feet across frontage and be located on the Park Avenue, the side of Park Avenue with the exposure to the train line, the easterly side. For perspective here, of the 12 properties that are affected, 3 are vacant, of which Mr. Kalika owns 2. 2 have 8-unit apartments, and the rest have single-family homes. The notion that a bulldozer is going to come in here and change the landscape overnight, creating congestion, pollution, and havoc, is simply not the case. The likely net effect of this ordinance is that it will raise the values of homes that it affects, as the property will become more valuable for development. The properties that will attract investors will be the homes that are in need of rehabilitation. The single-family homes on Park will benefit from the revitalization of the area and the replacement of the housing stock. The 2 lots that Mr. Kalika purchased were on the market for almost 3 years. We all know what happens to homes in need of repair that do not sell. It's not good for Park Avenue. It's not good for River Edge. Your council supported this ordinance gives residents on Park Avenue the opportunity to share in the renovation boom that's currently taking place all over town. Allowing investment to proceed will create the potential for this area to see increases in home values that are more in line with the rest of town. If you drive around River Edge, you'll see homes being renovated by individuals and developers. The town has greatly benefited from this investment, and the ordinance would extend this benefit to Park Avenue. It's important that those of you who've signed the petition against this proposed ordinance realize what you're requesting. The rejection of this ordinance will not preserve the views of the river It will not result in homes that match the existing housing stock. Rather, in the near term, it could actually bring more children to our schools, congestion to the area, and will result in larger structures on lots with less aesthetic appeal. I'm grateful to the council for having this forum because it is a good thing. The council needs to recognize that voting against option A, as presented in this petition, is not passive. The vote brings us option B, which will also have lasting consequences. The proposed duplexes will be beautiful and will set a precedent for the quality of new construction down the line. The option to zone the properties named in the ordinance for duplex is a good thing. I have confidence that the council will do what's in the best interest of Park Avenue and of River Edge. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Davis, for coming and speaking before the council. We appreciate your words. Is there anyone else who would like to be recognized and speak? Okay.
Hi, I'm Amory Hartman. I live on 821 Park Avenue. And I think a lot of what she said is opinion. I think that, personally, I'd rather look at a 100-year-old house that needs a paint job than something that is just slapped together. You can't tell me that putting 2 units on one thing is going to have less cars. One of the things the builder told me was that, oh, I'm only going to attract couples from the city. They're not going to have children. Well, frankly, most people who move out of the city is for the school system and to have children. So I disagree with a lot of what she said. I think a lot of it is opinion, and I think that we've had a petition signed by a lot of the people here whose opinion, I feel, has been ignored because of financial gain. And I think that that is really rather despicable.
Thank you for coming and speaking before us, Ms. Hartman. We appreciate your words. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Yes, sir. Could you give us your name and address?
Jim Anastas, 818 Park Avenue. I've been there for 31 years. I agree with Ms. Hartman largely that what was presented was very biased. And she has a financial interest in this, and I understand that too. Has anybody done a financial comparison, benefit to the town with these duplexes versus single-family homes?
No.
Do we not think that might be good information? Somebody put that together?
I apologize. Correction.
It's not quite accurate. When Mr. Collector's planner came in, he did give a financial analysis.
I thought he was asking whether the council did that.
No, but we did review that financial analysis. So one was done. The council did not undertake an independent one, so if that's what you're...
Yeah. So I apologize for that.
Not asking about the council.
Yeah.
I was just asking if it had been done.
Yes. And
what were the results?
I don't have all his details of his report. I don't remember the details. It was based on the anticipated market value of the duplexes versus what these houses would have been versus also what the tax rate would be on each. I'm not articulating it correctly because I don't remember the exact numbers, but basically what we were told was that the 2 duplexes would be a more reasonable tax burden for the owner relative to the value of the property, and that's why I made a more attractive alternative.
But less for us. In other words,
I'm just telling you what was presented to us in the report.
That's one more reason for us not to agree to them being built. I'm going to wind up with one right next to me, and I'm really not happy about it. The extra traffic and the noise is not what we're looking for in this town. I think it's adverse to what the town has always represented, and we should not allow it.
Thank you for coming and speaking to the council. At this moment, I'd like the record to show that Mayor Mascarotola is present and that I'm abdicating the chair for the mayor. Thank you, Tommy.
Perfect timing.
We're almost done. Trial by fire tonight, huh?
Okay, we're open to the public?
Open to the public, Mayor, yes, we are.
All right.
May I also say you did a fine job.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that's why you're Council President. If any member of the public would like to address any matter affecting their interests, they could stand, give their name and address, and be heard.
Good evening. I'm Patricia Bradley. I live at 52 Washington Avenue. I've been a resident of the town for about 22 years at this point. I'd like to speak out against the proposal for the rezoning on Park Avenue for a couple of reasons. There's been an inability here in town to sell new housing stock over the last several years. We know that the Crossroads project that went up several years ago, very high-end condominiums, a lot of those didn't sell, they went to renters. My big concern is that we start putting high-density housing stock along the Park Avenue and Side Street corridor there. There's a real possibility that these houses may not sell. The housing stock here in New Jersey is down since Hurricane Sandy, but the real estate market has by no means recovered. My concern here, we on Washington Avenue have an empty lot, which is unresolved after a fire several years ago. We on Washington Avenue don't want high-density housing either. It will, our fear is that it's not good for Park Avenue. It's not good for the side streets. I take the train almost every day into New York City. I work in Midtown. I can tell you right now, the traffic on Park Avenue at the rush hours is dangerous, to say the least. There was some attempt to alleviate the traffic pattern down there several years ago by making it one-way. Very often that is ignored. The signage is inadequate. I myself have come very close to being hit by cars several times. The traffic on the side streets is already unacceptable. I have a brand new driver in the house. I won't allow her to back out of our driveway. And that's really bad. I mean, my kids have never been able to ride their bikes on Washington Avenue. We keep them down at the beach house. They ride them on the private lane down there because it's really unsafe. We're asking for a lot of trouble by doing this. You can't guarantee me that if you put these houses up, these duplex houses, that they won't come with kids. We know that the schools are overcrowded. I myself put my money where my mouth was years ago. Roosevelt School was so overcrowded, I didn't want my son eating lunch sitting on the floor. Guess what? I've now put 2 kids through private school all these years for just that reason. I'm a taxpayer in this town. I believe in the schools here in this town, but frankly, I think they're inadequate for the population. The 3rd school here in town closed not long before we moved to town, and then boom, there was a boom. And now the schools have been really overcrowded. We've seen them have to be expanded several times. I don't know where else they're going to go. You're not going to have young people move out from the city to live on top of the railroad tracks. That's not what people come out to the suburbs for. I really would urge that the council think about this very, very carefully. This is not going to, this isn't going to make the houses in the neighborhood more valuable. This is going to make these houses very attractive to developers coming in and knocking them down and putting up housing stock that will be rented out. They will not be owner-occupied. And you want to see what happens to properties with absentee landowners? Look at the commercial properties along Kinderkamak Road. You want to see an area that's ripe for redevelopment? Look at the commercial properties. That looks like a slum. Don't try and change the face of the residential neighborhoods here in River Edge. Look at the commercial properties first, and then maybe that will really help with the tax problem. Thank you.
Someone else had their hand up?
My name is Carl Hartman. I'm a resident at 821 Park Avenue, and the builder came and spoke with us and made his case, and my wife spoke a moment ago. We're not convinced. We oppose it, and I strongly oppose it. I think that the impetus for this could possibly be to increase our rate at least.
And also, in some people's opinion, it may be an improvement to the neighborhood. I disagree, and I don't think that it would be an improvement to our neighborhood. I think the density is not the way to go, and it's my understanding that the taxes that the town expects would be $14,000 per unit, something like that, if I'm not mistaken. And if most of the houses, you can go on the website Zillow, and you can look at the taxes along our street, and there's nothing. I mean, most of them are around $8,000 to $10,000 for a single-family home, and I don't understand how the town can justify, asking $20,000 even from a new unit to be built. And I think that was the original problem that the builder had, was that he predicated his economics on something closer to what the existing housing stock was, and then something happened, and all of a sudden the town expected $20,000 out of that one property, and he could not make his economics fit together. And that's where the problem started. I don't understand, it's not been made clear to me how this can happen. I mean, how does the town expect to have that kind of income from that house? So that seems like the crux of the problem to me. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Victor Vitale, 42 Washington Avenue. I'm opposed to multifamily homes in my neighborhood. I've invested in a singular home, one that I've invested quite a lot of money that I'm never going to get out. But I invested in the town, and I invested in a neighborhood. Sacrofiti, you mentioned something about further redevelopment of Park Avenue. That phrase bothered me, because now we're not spot zoning. Now we're moving up the block. Going to move up Washington Avenue. We have quite a bit of empty properties down here. My concern is twofold. One, maybe you've made up your minds, maybe you haven't. The man came to me. I happen to like his plans. I built townhomes. Looks like a great plan. But that's one gentleman. The next gentleman that comes around may not have the same plan, the same look. And I appreciate what he's trying to do. But there's no guarantees from this council or anybody else that the quality is going to be the same as this development. It concerns me, because all of a sudden now we have a beautiful house, and I have one of the better homes in town. The guy next door may not have the resources to do that, nor is he expected to. You cannot regulate that, or I don't believe you can. So the concern for me is, down the road, my investment is basically thrown out the window because we don't have that control. Nor do you have the right to control. The guy's going to buy a piece of property, it's zoned, he's going to build it. He will maximize his profit, like some other big developer that did this in lawsuits right now with the 3-ply plywood and everything else in town. This is what concerns me. Building to the bare minimum, I don't say this gentleman is, but there are people that do that. And there are people that maximize for profit. And now we've opened up, and you want to redevelop, and you need revenue, that's all well and good. But my taxes will go up next year. And I pay about 2.5 times what's around me. So I will be at the $20,000 level, and I'm going to have to look at multifamily housing. How does that make it fair for the people that want singular homes and are going to pay that price? I've invested in this community. I want to be in this community. I will be forced out of this community. So I think it's twofold. I think you have to listen to people who want to come in and people that want to stay. I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vitale.
Good evening. My name is Geraldine Garcia. I live at 839 Park Avenue. I live directly across from this lot that was in question. And from that particular lot comes this ordinance. This is a blanket ordinance. This is going to affect our entire street, not just one lot. And I see that the minimum requirement for frontage is 70 feet in this ordinance. There's not many homes on that street that have 70 feet. I don't have 70 feet. So what happens then? Somebody comes in, buys a home, comes back, and they have to go to the zoning board now for a variance to build a duplex. Because we are, if this ordinance passes, we will be a duplex zone. I feel that there is absolutely no benefit to the town, no benefit to us residents. I've lived there since 1975, and there's many people around me who have lived there much, much longer. We have 8 kindergarten classes right now in the Newbridge Center. If this is true, that families are going to come in, and maybe he doesn't sell them, if they're going to be rented, there are going to be children in those homes. There's a proposal that I read in the paper that the lot, the old DPW lot, is going to be a parking lot. That's going to create more congestion, as these duplex homes will create more congestion and more traffic. Please reconsider this for the neighborhood. Thank you.
Mr. Miller speak already?
Yes.
During the work session.
I think there's more people scared to talk, but because a lot of people are saying similar things.
Did you speak already, Mr. Miller?
I spoke at the 7 o'clock.
Okay.
I think I'm allowed to speak on this one.
Absolutely.
So that's why I came in.
That's why I asked.
Name Miller. You didn't say, got to say my name. James Miller, 885 Park Avenue. I'm sorry the mayor wasn't here earlier to catch some of the points. I came up with a point earlier about why our petition wasn't part of the mention that we even sent the petition, which, you know, there's 90 homes within the area, and we had over 30% of the people just in a short period of time sign the petition that lives within the 200 feet. And we also we do have a number of the residents that live in the area. And if you can't listen to the people that live in the area that say they don't want it, and the guy is a nice guy, he came to my house and I gave him respect, and he came and sat at my dining room table, and I saw his proposal. But again, as Victor Vitale said, yes, even if he builds these nice deals, it's opening up the Pandora's box down the street. And yeah, granted, I live across the street from an eyesore that is just waiting to be blown down by the wind and put a new house. But if this went through, I'd be looking at 2 or 4 units directly across from my house. And when people from the city come out to visit me, we sit in the backyard, we enjoy our yard, and they say, geez, I can't believe how quiet it is at night. I think those nights are not going to happen anymore when you have 8 new families move in, and then you have more people going into the school system. We can't benefit tax-wise, and then the whole town eats this cost. And the thing that I'm mostly concerned with, if these units don't sell, as some of the other neighbors have mentioned, they turn into rentals. And renters are not owners. And single-family, our town is based on single-family. And our neighborhood's single-family. Sure, there's a 8-unit deal. That was there probably since the 30s. I mean, this is before most of these zoning laws even existed. So the idea that, oh, you have a couple multi-units on the table here, doesn't mean you have to make the situation worse by including the entire Park Avenue with duplex, and car after car. And trust me, all the cars that can't fit in that one single driveway are going to be parking up on the side streets, plus the commuters. So the idea that, and if you go and reevaluate the master plan, you have to take into this effect, which right now you just authorized Mr. Costa $1,200 to go look into this parking lot deal. That's going to be bringing in probably 300 cars, 200 cars. I don't know how big that parking lot is. 50 cars. They're going to be coming down Park Avenue. Then we're going to get a proposal that you're going to want to take away the left-hand turn or do not enter, which half the people don't honor the the parking. So now we're going to become back another highway like we were before they put in that sign. The couple more points, since you guys don't get bored of talking, is that we're tired of fighting these battles. It wasn't too long ago that we were sitting here where they were trying to put a transfer garbage yard across from our area and saying that it would be good for us to smell the garbage. I mean, how many more battles do we have to keep fighting? Go down to the south end of town, go get those people to build over in the Hoffman Coups. That would raise ratables. Right now, there's a big lot sitting there, nothing's happening, and you're going to put, and no, those projects don't put kids into the school system. I have a problem with the planner's report, and no one mentioned this either positive or negatively, but the planner's report mentioned no impact on what the parking and what this, the impact of Grove Street. Maybe when he did the report, he didn't bring into the Grove Street area, because that came like maybe a month or so probably after he did his report. But I would say that planning report would have to be redone, because Grove Street, there's a number of issues there. That would totally impact our area with the amount of cars that are going to be generated with this possible 10+ different projects that would eventually, within 2 years, be done on Park Avenue. The other thing is that there was no assessment. Like you had the assessor here at the 7 o'clock, he said that the sales of the houses were selling 10% above the assessed rate. So if you really need to know what your house is worth, you basically take your assessment, if you take the guy at his word, that 10% more would be possibly what the sale price of your unit is. No report in the planner's report said how having all these extra cars on the street and all these extra people in the school system is going to affect your value of your house. Right now, they're very low. So how much lower do we have to let our house values go before we say enough is enough? And I would think enough is enough to not let this go through. If he got approved for 2 5-bedroom houses, build the 5-bedroom houses. Personally, I don't see how you could sell them in the first place, especially during the 2008 worst recession since the Depression. I think that if you put in 2, 3 you could always build smaller and sell them at $400,000 or $500,000 and still make a few dollars. Sorry you didn't make enough money, but maybe learn from this situation. But the idea that we all have to, our lives have to change so all the developers along Park Avenue eventually can benefit is ridiculous. So that's my point. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
Mike Cray, 879 Park Avenue. Again, I just have a question to ask, and I don't know if you'll have the answer here, but the ordinance requires 70-foot frontage to be able to build the duplex? Yes. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And do you know how many properties meet that requirement in this zone?
12.
12? Okay, so there's potential for 24 units along Park Avenue.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to know that because, you know, it's hard to imagine that, as it was, you know, kind of optimistically stated earlier, that our property values would go up as a result of potentially 24 duplex units going in along Park Avenue. I know, you know, there's talk about the neighborhood needing revitalization, et cetera, but I think that generally the people that are here, that have been living in the neighborhood, that have been paying the taxes, that have been supporting the town, are not living in houses that need revitalization. So again, we'd be paying the freight of this change. And it just doesn't seem to be realistic to think that, yeah, and I'd be interested to find out of any neighborhood where that happened, where duplexes went in and property values went up. I don't think that's going to be a realistic expectation. I think that means we're going to pay the freight. And again, you know, you're looking at that neighborhood. They're here tonight. They were here in December. They're going to be at the planning board meeting. They're going to be here when this comes up for the final reading. If there's this much opposition to it, there's got to be some recognition that the people of this neighborhood who understand this neighborhood, who have lived in it, who have built it, who are it, have some sense of what the impact of it's going to be. And I just hope you're hearing us. That's the most important point. You need to hear us. These are our homes. Put our lives into them. You're talking about changing that dramatically. Okay? You paint a lot of pictures of how pretty it'll be. You can have 2 nice ones, and then the other 12 or 11 don't turn out that way. Nobody pays the price for that except the people sitting in this room. And that's important to know.
All right, anybody else?
I'm Dave Rabinowitz. I live at 44 Gates. I've lived in River Edge for about 13 years. I built an addition onto my house, and I applied for a variance, and it was granted. A few years later, I applied for another variance for a deck, and I was given a really, really tough time because they felt it was a permanent structure, and you know, the real reason why I wanted was to support a hot tub for my daughter who was dying of a disease. And you know, it passed, and I did everything I needed to, but to hear that you want to change all of Park Avenue and to put duplexes and to add I can't even count how many cars in an area that can't even support it right now. The traffic along Park Avenue, you know, I have 3 small boys, and to hear that you're going to add possibility of, you know, I don't know, 25 to 30 cars, 40 cars along Park Avenue in the area over there, I'm fearful for my boys, you know, playing around the corner now. Why would I have built an addition to be raised in taxes the way I have, more than double over the time? To hear that you want to make it eyesores of these monstrosities and change the look of our town. You know, I live in a really nice house that I built up, and to hear that you want to change it into a, I'm sorry, blue-collar town to look like other towns, I'd rather sell my house. I don't want to pay the high taxes that I'm paying for you to make more money off of an eyesore that you don't have to live by. If any of you lived in this area, then I think you'd agree with all of us for being here. Thank you.
Jim Manassas, 18 Park Avenue. I know I spoke before. I did forget to mention that I am opposed to this, and I hope you remember how close the vote was that got you into the chairs you're in, because I think we have a lot of votes that are going to be changed if this is voted in.
All right, anybody else? Can I have a motion to close the hearing to the public?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? All right, is there a opinion as to whether this goes back to the zoning board or not?
I think we heard that it does. Councilman Mignon that it does.
Goes back to the zoning board?
Planning board?
Because it's a new board and it's a new...
Okay, just to inform everybody, if you haven't heard it already, but the procedure will be that the proposed ordinance will go back to the planning board for a public hearing for their approval, disapproval, or suggested changes to the ordinance. Once that's done, it will come back to the mayor and council for a public hearing and final adoption. I expect that at the planning board hearing, there will be testimony from our planner. There may be testimony from our borough engineer. There may be testimony from someone from the police department to address the traffic issues that were raised, the noise issues that were raised. There may be testimony from the tax assessor regarding what impact, if any, it will have on property values, because we have to do our due diligence. We have to get the opinion of
all our professionals involved, so that we can make so that the council can make a final informed decision at the public hearing. What else? That's it. Any other business? No? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Council
Oh, council comments. All right, council comments, I'll begin with Councilman Papaleo. We have closed session?
I'd like to, we've had a long night. I'd like to thank all the people who came and spoke, both for and against. I think this is the way good government works. And I'd like to thank everyone for being respectful of differing opinions. And I think I'd just like to close it with that. Thank you.
Alphonse?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank everyone for coming. As I said, I like when people are here at the meetings. I don't like that it's only because it's something affecting them personally. I'd like to see more people here just on a regular basis. But what we did see, in essence, was tonight, too bad there's not school children here, because it is a lesson in democracy and how democracy works, in terms of citizens voicing their complaints, and when you have a representative democracy, the roles of elected officials, regardless of how the vote went, yes or no. So it was a good example of that. What I'd like to talk about is not so much the vote, because everyone up here, regardless of how they voted, has the best interests of the borough at heart. There was a gentleman who spoke early on, and he asked if we all live in River Edge. And, well, of course we all live in River Edge. You have to sit up here as a member of the council or the mayor. We all live here. We all want the best. Sometimes we have differing opinions as to how to get to that better place, but we all very much want the best for our community. And what disturbed me in the lead up to this, in reading on the patch or in the town news, was there was this something that, that there was something nefarious going on, that it was the fix was in, that we scheduled this on a night so that there'd be a lower turnout. And that simply wasn't true. It's simply how it fell on the calendar. It had nothing to do with the vacation. I, for one, didn't even realize that it's, school vacation. I wish I was going away somewhere where I had plans to. So I just want to get that across, that there was nothing nefarious here. There was nothing, the fix was in. There's nothing like that. You have 7 individuals who have nothing but the best interests of the community at heart. So I just want to make sure that that's very, very clear. But I do want to thank everyone for coming here and being part of the discussion. That's it, man.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Mignon.
Just repeat what Councilman Bartoloni said. I understand these kind of issues raise a lot of emotion on both sides, and at the end of the day, I do look at the public participation. I'm looking at a map where I mark who signed the petition, where you live, and I'm looking at the 21 affected lots, and there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people who were directly infected who don't want this change. I think it's incumbent upon us to hear them and why they don't want to do that, and that's why I don't believe we should went to going forward with a public hearing on this yet. There are issues, larger issues down there. We do have problems. We have narrow 50-foot lots next to 100-foot lots. And I know, sitting up here, if I had one of those lots and I went to the mayor and council, if I was being directly affected, I would want them to listen to me. And I think we need to afford that opportunity. I don't believe that we're doing spot zoning. I don't believe that this is going to be a traffic nightmare per se. Those are all speculative outcomes. And at the end of the day, for me personally, if I don't believe the benefit to the town overall is greater than the concerns of the neighborhood, then I don't know if I can support this at the end. But that being said, Mr. Kleck had every right to come up here and petition the council to make the zoning change the same way everybody who's petitioning not to have it the same way. I think he presented a very good plan. I think that my perspective is a little bit different. I do hold a professional planner's license. And to me, I mean, if this was a zoning board case, I think I would actually see reasons to grant him variances based on zoning criteria, but that's not the issue here. The question is whether, not just his single case, it's the total build-out of potentially 12 properties and the impact on the fill-in properties also. And like I said, I just think we need to do our due diligence to make sure that if we can't convince you this is the right thing to do, then we shouldn't be telling you we're doing it for your own good. And that's just the way I feel about it.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Capola?
Great. Thank you. I just want to also thank everybody for coming. I know it's not easy to stand up here and speak in front of a crowd in the council, so I appreciate that, and I really wrestled with the decision. It's not something that I took lightly, and I spoke to many people and read many documents and articles, so it wasn't some willy-nilly fly-off-the-cuff decision for me, at least, and I think I speak for the rest of the council. It was a very difficult and a thought-out process over time. I live here, too. I bump into many of you throughout the week. So, to Councilman Bartolome's point, I mean, we are you. We are here in this town. We don't live in another state, and there's no fix-in. No one's getting their palms greased. It's just concerned citizens up here that we also want the best for this town, so it's not us against you. And again, I just want to end with thank you for presenting your case and making us think about our decisions. Thank you.
Councilman Aquafreda.
I also want to thank you all for coming, and specifically the residents of the affected area, and for speaking out, because I know it's not easy through experience of doing that. I would certainly hope that in the upcoming vetting process of this proposed ordinance, there can be found a way, and probably attorneys may have to get involved, where without infringing our First Amendment rights, some sort of covenants or restrictions can be placed in terms of the development itself to somehow safeguard toward possible future development. And everything is hypothetical and everything is in the future, so perhaps we should try to prepare for the worst case. What if all lots are developed and they become semi-detached townhouses? And I just don't know enough about the legalities to go beyond that statement, but certainly that's my wish. Let's see how much of it can become a reality. But thank you again, all.
Councilwoman Murphy.
Thank you. I do want to say thank you to everyone who came tonight to share their opinions. I do want to address something that was brought up a few times regarding overcrowding of schools. I kind of see it on the postcard that you mentioned it, and my kids are students at Roosevelt School, and I'm a class teacher, so the potential maximum for each grade is 96 students, and there's a capacity for 4 classrooms of 24 students at each grade at Roosevelt. Currently, only one grade is even close to the maximum, which is a 6th grade, at 93 students. There is room to add students in every grade level of the school, and the 1st, 2nd, and 5th grades only have 3 classes of students, so there would be adequate space to add an additional 24 students or more to those grades if necessary. So here's the book, here's the students. You know, we have a lot of grades that only have 3 classes, and, you know, the potential is for 4. So I think that's an erroneous comment or claim to make.
4 years ago, we added 9 students in the high school. And
Well, that brings me to my next, today's editorial in the Record, which says, families are choosing city over suburbs. And I'll leave this here for you to read, that says that Bergen County has 6,000 fewer children than it did in the year 2000. So there's a trend for people to move actually out of the suburbs to the city. And anyone's free to read that editorial. So that's all I have to say, and thank you for coming.
All right, I just want to conclude the meeting by saying that after we adjourn, we're going to go into a closed session to discuss a important personnel issue. I want to thank everybody for coming to tonight's meeting. I understand that this is a highly charged emotional issue regarding your neighborhoods and your desire to protect the quality of your life. We are looking at the issue closely. We're going to have, again, a hearing. We're going to bring the professionals in. Instead of having a lot of speculation about the schools or the property values or the taxes or the traffic, we'll have our professionals come in and give us advice based upon their expertise, based upon their knowledge of the real estate market, based upon evidence and facts and statistics that we get from the school system that Councilwoman Murphy gave us a brief glimpse of those things, based upon a professional planner's report. We'll have all that information so that you can be better educated and we can be better educated. And that's what I want to say. All right? So thank you all for coming.
Responsibility. Somebody's going to tell us why you might favor this. Mr. Acrobetta, maybe, who's wants to enlarge it. Maybe we'd like to know his side of the story.
We make a motion to adjourn?
Yeah. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah.